When the system flagged her tattoo as an Omega-class threat, I thought it had malfunctioned. Humans weren't dangerous. I learned the truth 90 seconds later when she dismantled 3 Krovathi warlords before I could even draw my weapon. Look, I have been working security at Terminus 7 for 16 cycles now, and I thought I had seen everything. Every species, every trick, every pathetic attempt at smuggling contraband through the galaxy's busiest transit hub. The Vraxians with their color-changing skin, the Delthorians who could compress themselves into luggage, the Quelaxians who literally shed their criminal records with their molting season. Yeah, I had processed them all. But humans, please. They were the punchline of every security officer's breakroom joke. Soft little mammals from a backwater planet, always smiling, always apologizing, always looking like a stiff breeze could knock them into next week. Harmless. Adorable even in that pathetic sort of way. Then she walked through my checkpoint, and everything I thought I knew about Earth's children went straight out the airlock into the void. It was third shift on a galactic standard Tuesday, which meant the usual parade of exhausted travelers crying spawn and merchants who thought their fake transit permits would somehow fool a station that processed 40,000 beings per rotation. My 3 eyes were already tired, my chitinous plates ached, and I had 7 more hours before I could retreat to my quarters and forget that customer service was supposedly part of my job description. The line stretched back toward the docking bays like always. A family of Gorthians arguing about their luggage weight limits, 2 Peluvian traders who reeked of fermented kelp, a Xandorian priest mumbling prayers that made my translator implant glitch every 4th word. Standard chaos. Exactly what I expected. Then I saw her waiting. 5 positions back in Q7. Human. Female probably, though their dimorphism was so subtle that half the time I guessed wrong. Small. Maybe 1.6 meters tall, which put her somewhere between my thorax and shoulder joints. Dark hair pulled back in what humans called a ponytail, practical clothing in grays and blacks, a single travel pack slung over one shoulder. She stood there like a statue, not fidgeting, not checking her data pad every 5 seconds like most anxious travelers, just waiting, patient, quiet, harmless. I almost laughed. Humans were always harmless. Their entire species was basically a galactic cautionary tale about what happened when evolution prioritized big brains over literally everything else that mattered for survival. No natural armor, no venom, no claws worth mentioning, no redundant organs. They did not even have decent sensory capabilities. 2 eyes, in a fixed forward position, absolutely ridiculous. Back on my homeworld of Krethix Prime, our newborn hatchlings had better offensive capabilities than adult humans. The Gorthian family finally finished arguing and stomped through. The Peluvians got flagged for secondary inspection because of course they did. Nobody travels with that much luggage for a simple transit stop. The Andorian priest blessed me, which my implant translated as something about finding peace in the 17 sacred voids, and I nodded politely while thinking about my paycheck. Then she stepped forward. "Documentation, please," I said, not even looking up from my terminal. My secondary hands were already reaching for the bioscanner while my primary hands typed. "Of course." Her voice was soft, polite. She placed her data chip on my scanner with the kind of careful precision that suggested she had done this 1,000 times before. No fumbling. No nervous chatter about how long the line was or how tired she was from travel. Just smooth, efficient compliance. I glanced at the scanner read out. Iris Chen. Human. Age 32 standard years, whatever that meant in their weird biological timeline. Origin planet Earth. Destination Nexus colony on the outer rim. Purpose of travel, personal business. Occupation consultant. Consultant. Right. That was human speak for unemployed and trying to sound important. "Step into the scanner, please," I said, gesturing with my lower right arm toward the full-body imaging cylinder. It was protocol, nothing personal, though I always found it amusing how some species reacted to the scanner. The Vraxians hated it because it saw through their camouflage. The Quelaxians refused because of some religious nonsense about capturing their soul essence. Iris Chen just nodded and walked into the cylinder without a single question. Professional. Experienced. Boring. I activated the scanner and watched the holographic display build her body layer by layer in glowing blue wireframe. Skeletal structure. Typical human. Fragile calcium-based framework that would shatter under a quarter of Krethix gravity. Musculature. Denser than average for her species, but still nothing compared to anyone who mattered. Internal organs. All standard, nothing smuggled in those pathetically vulnerable body cavities. Cardiovascular system. Single heart. Laughably insufficient. Then the scanner highlighted something on her left shoulder blade. Pigmentation anomaly. Decorative marking. Tattoo my database helpfully supplied. I squinted at the image. It was some kind of earth animal, rendered in blacks and oranges, all stripes and teeth and eyes that seemed to stare out from her skin even in holographic form. A big cat of some sort. Humans loved their pets. I knew that much. Probably some sentimental reminder of a childhood companion or whatever emotional nonsense they valued. Ma'am, the scanner detected a permanent skin marking. I said because protocol demanded I acknowledge any anomaly. Is this a tattoo? Yes, she said simply. Still calm. Still quiet. For decorative purposes? Something like that. I was about to clear her and move on to the next traveler when my terminal started beeping. Not the normal beep. The bad beep. The one that meant the station's central database wanted a closer look at something. My good mood, already non-existent, died completely. The beeping got louder, more insistent, and my terminal screen flashed yellow, then orange, then an ugly pulsing red that made my stomach sacks clench. In 16 cycles of security work I had seen that color exactly 4 times. 3 of those times involved wanted war criminals. The 4th was a Nexarian smuggler carrying enough plasma explosives to vaporize half the station. I stared at the screen, then at the human woman standing patiently in the scanner like she was waiting for a transport shuttle, not setting off every alarm in my system. Please remain in the scanner, I said, trying to keep my voice professional while my mandibles clicked nervously. There appears to be a secondary verification required. No problem, Chen said. Still calm, still unbothered, like this happened to her every 3rd day. I pulled up the detailed scan, zooming in on the tattoo. The image sharpened, revealing intricate detail work that must have taken hours of pain to complete. The animal, the big cat, was rendered in remarkable detail, black stripes over orange fur, white accents around the face, teeth bared in what humans probably thought looked fierce, but honestly just looked like their species trying too hard. My database labeled it tiger, Panthera tigris, extinct earth predator, previously apex hunter of Asian continent, notable for blah blah blah, solitary behavior blah blah, capable of killing prey twice its size. So she had a picture of a dead animal on her shoulder. Humans were weird about that stuff, I knew. They mourned species that had been gone for centuries. Very sentimental, very emotional, very pointless. But that did not explain why my terminal was having a complete meltdown. I checked the alert details. Pattern recognition match, it said. Cross-referencing with galactic military database. Please stand by for verification. Military database. For a tattoo. Ma'am, I said slowly. Can you tell me the significance of this marking? She tilted her head slightly, and for just a fraction of a second, something flickered across her face. Not fear. Not guilt. Something closer to amusement maybe, or resignation. Then it was gone, replaced by that same neutral pleasantness. It is personal, she said. Right, but the thing is, I gestured at my screaming terminal. The system is flagging it as well as something that requires explanation. Is it? The way she said it, so flat, so unsurprised, made my plates itch. The screen refreshed. Cross-reference complete. Match found. Displaying results. I leaned forward, my 3 eyes trying to focus on the wall of text that appeared. Military insignia database. Subsection Terran category special operations units. Subcategory active combat designations. Wait.
What?
The tiger image on my screen rotated, and next to it appeared an identical symbol. Same stripes. Same eyes. Same bared teeth. Beneath it text in that blocky human alphabet, which my implant translated instantly. Bengal Strike Force. Earth Special Operations Command. Authorization level, Omega clearance, threat assessment. Extreme. I read it 3 times, then a 4th time because surely I was mistranslating something. Special Operations. Humans. That was like saying the Puffalorians had a swim team. Technically possible, I supposed, but absolutely ridiculous given that Puffalorians dissolved in water. I coughed, my throat suddenly dry. This symbol matches a military designation in our database. Does it? Chen asked, and there was definitely amusement in her voice now. Subtle, barely there but present. Bengal Strike Force, I read aloud, hoping she would laugh and explain that it was a coincidence or a joke, or maybe a fan club for people who really liked extinct cats. Yep, she said. Just, yup. Nothing else. No elaboration. No explanation. My terminal beeped again. New data loading. Personnel records accessed. Authorization granted for security review. All this was getting worse by the second. The screen filled with text, and my 3 eyes went wide enough that my secondary eyelids engaged automatically, because surely what I was reading could not possibly be accurate. Service record. Chen. Iris. Rank. Commander. Status active reserve. Confirmed operations 47. Casualty rate among team members 0. Success rate 100%. 100%. 47 missions. 0 casualties. I looked up at the small, quiet human woman standing in my scanner, and for the first time in 16 cycles I felt genuinely nervous. My primary hands froze over the keyboard while my secondary hands started that involuntary trembling thing they did when my nervous system decided panic was a reasonable response to stimuli. I scrolled down, hoping the service record would become less terrifying. It did not. Combat deployments. Karvesh III hostage extraction. 16 hostiles neutralized. 0 friendly casualties. Mission time 4 hours 22 minutes. Border conflict. Delta Pavonis. 43 enemy combatants eliminated. Strategic target secured. 0 friendly casualties. Mission time 9 hours 11 minutes. Deep space reconnaissance Theta Wing. Enemy frigate disabled and captured intact. 0 friendly casualties. Mission time 6 days. The list went on and on. Each entry had a little notation beside it. Commendation. Medal of Valor. Citation for excellence. Some had multiple notations. One had 7.
Hey Kelthara, you got a problem over there?
That was Rovax, working the scanner 2 stations down. He was Krell, all muscle and attitude, the kind of security officer who liked to remind people that his species invented 3 different martial arts and conquered 2 solar systems before discovering faster-than-light travel. No, just a verification thing, I said, but my voice cracked halfway through. Rovax grunted and went back to hassling a Peluvian merchant about undeclared goods. I returned my attention to the screen, where new data was populating. Specializations, the header read, and below it a list that made my stomach sacks twist into knots. Close quarters combat expert, long-range marksmanship expert, explosives and demolitions expert, tactical command expert, xenobiology combat applications expert, zero-gravity assault expert, psychological operations expert, survival hostile environment expert. Expert, expert, expert. The word repeated like a curse. There was a subsection labeled notable engagements, and against my better judgment I opened it. The first entry made me wish I had not. Thalorian uprising suppression. Operative Chen volunteered for solo insertion into enemy command structure. Duration, 73 days embedded. Result, complete dismantling of rebel leadership through targeted elimination and intelligence gathering. Enemy casualties, 48 confirmed. Friendly casualties, 0. Operative sustained no injuries. Strategic outcome, rebellion collapsed within 2 weeks of extraction. Solo insertion, 73 days, 48 confirmed kills. I looked up at Iris Chen again. She had shifted her weight slightly, perhaps tired of standing in the scanner, and was examining her fingernails like this was the most boring part of her day. Her face showed no tension, no concern. Her breathing was slow and steady. She looked like someone waiting for a sandwich order, not someone whose military record read like a horror anthology. Kelthara, seriously, what is going on? This time it was Vexla, a Sarathian with better pattern recognition than most station computers. Her sensor stalks had swiveled toward my terminal, which meant she had noticed the color coding on my screen. I have a human here with a military background, I said quietly. Vexla laughed. Actually laughed. This chittering sound that her species made when something struck them as absurd. A human. Military. What? Did she serve in their orbital trash collection fleet? Rovax heard that and laughed too, his deep rumbling chuckle echoing across 3 stations. Just come look at this, I said. The laughter stopped when they saw my screen. Vexla's sensor stalks went rigid. Rovax's crest flattened against his skull, which was Krell body language for "oh no, this is actually serious." That cannot be right, Vexla whispered. The database must be corrupted. Check the authentication codes, I said, pointing. Triple verified. Central Military Archive, Earth Defense Network and Galactic Security Council all confirm. Rovax leaned closer. his massive frame blocking my light. He scrolled down, reading, his crest getting flatter with each entry. 47 operations, solo operations. That is what it says. Humans do not do solo operations, Vexla said. They are pack animals, they travel in groups, they need emotional support and team bonding, and, what do they call it, camaraderie. Apparently this one does not, I said. More data loaded. Commendations section. I stopped counting medals after 20. There were citations from 3 different galactic admirals. A personal thank you letter from the Earth Secretary of Defense. A notation that she had been offered promotion to Strategic Command 5 times and declined each time. Declined. She turned down promotions. Who did that? What is her threat assessment? Rovax asked, his voice quieter now. I found the section. Felt my plates go cold. Threat level Omega Black. Classification. Extreme danger to hostile forces. Capability assessment, single operative capable of mission-level strategic impact. Recommended engagement protocols. Do not engage without overwhelming numerical superiority and heavy weapons support. Preferred strategy. Avoid confrontation entirely. Avoid confrontation entirely. With a human. A human who was 1.6 meters tall and currently standing in my scanner looking bored. This is a mistake, Vexla said, but her sensor stalks were trembling. This has to be a mistake. Then explain the authentication, I said. She could not. Rovax scrolled further and found something that made him freeze completely. Kelthara. Look at this section. I looked. Known capabilities. The header read. Confirmed kill methods. 93 distinct techniques across 47 missions. Weapons proficiency. 216 different weapon systems, including 81 of non-human origin. Languages. 42 including 6 non-verbal species communication systems. Tactical adaptability. Successfully completed missions in 17 different atmospheric compositions. 4 zero-gravity environments. And 2 hostile xenobiological ecosystems without specialized equipment. Without specialized equipment. What does that even mean? Vexla whispered. I had a horrible suspicion I knew exactly what it meant. It meant Iris Chen had gone to places that should have killed her. Places where the atmosphere was toxic or the gravity was wrong or the local predators were the size of shuttlecraft. And she had not just survived, she had completed her missions. She had won. My terminal beeped one final time. Warning. Subject is flagged for diplomatic courtesy protocols. Exercise maximum professional respect. Any detention or harassment may result in formal complaint to Earth Embassy and Galactic Security Council review. Diplomatic courtesy protocols. For a soldier. I looked at Iris Chen one more time, really looked at her, and suddenly her stillness did not seem peaceful anymore. It seemed like the stillness of a predator that had learned patience was more effective than movement. Her calm expression was not pleasant. It was the face of someone who had nothing to prove because she had already proven everything that mattered. And that tattoo, that extinct tiger on her shoulder suddenly made perfect sense. She was not commemorating a dead species. She was advertising exactly what she was. I took a breath, tried to remember my training and reminded myself that I was a professional security officer at the galaxy's premier transit hub. I had handled criminals, smugglers, and even that one time a Vrothian mercenary tried to punch through my checkpoint. I could handle one small human woman, even if her service record suggested she could kill me in approximately 17 different ways before my secondary hearts finished their current contraction cycle. Ma'am, I said, keeping my voice level, I am going to need to ask you some questions about your military service. Sure, Iris said. Still pleasant. Still patient. You are listed as an active reserve member of Earth Special Operations Command, is that correct? Yes. And you have completed 47 combat operations? Yes. Solo operations? Most of them, yes. Most of them. Like this was normal. Like going alone into hostile territory was the same as taking a solo vacation. Vexla made a small noise behind me, something between a wheeze and a whimper. And you are currently traveling to Nexus Colony for, your documentation says, personal business. Correct, Iris said. What kind of personal business requires a special operations commander? For the first time, something shifted in her expression. Not annoyance exactly. More like the look someone gives you when you have asked a profoundly stupid question but they are too polite to say so out loud. The personal kind, she said. Ma'am, I am going to need more specifics than that.
Am I being detained?
The question hung in the air like a live grenade. Technically, I had every right to ask for clarification on travel purposes. That was protocol, but the way she asked it, so calm, so direct, made it clear she knew exactly what her rights were and exactly how far I could push before this became an incident. "No, you are not being detained," I said carefully. "This is standard security verification." "Then I am visiting a friend," Iris said. "Personal business, no operational objectives, no weapons, no restricted materials, just me, my bag, and a shuttle ticket." Rovax leaned in close, his breath hot against my auditory sensors. "You need to escalate this," he whispered. "Call Senior Officer Cracks. This is above our clearance." He was right. I hated that he was right, but he was right. I pressed the communication stud on my terminal. "Senior Officer Cracks, this is Checkpoint 7. I need supervisory authorization for a complex verification." 3 minutes later, Cracks arrived, and I knew we were in trouble because he brought 2 tactical officers with him. Cracks was Vulfaxian, which meant he stood 3 meters tall, had 4 arms, and possessed the kind of combat experience that made even Rovax look like a hatchling. The tactical officers flanked him, both carrying stun rifles in low ready position. Cracks looked at my terminal, looked at Iris Chen, looked back at my terminal. "Omega Black classification," he said, his voice a low rumble that made the floor vibrate. "Yes, sir," I said. "And she is just standing there?" "Yes, sir." Cracks approached the scanner slowly, like he was approaching something that might explode. His 4 eyes studied Iris from multiple angles simultaneously. "Commander Chen," he said formally. "Officer," Iris replied, nodding slightly. "I am Senior Officer Cracks, Station Security Chief. I am going to need to conduct a full tactical screening. This will involve detailed questions about your purpose here, your intended activities, and verification of your current operational status." "I understand," Iris said. "Can I step out of the scanner? I have been standing here for about 15 minutes and my knees are not as young as they used to be." The casual way she said it, the little joke about aging, should have been disarming. Instead, it made everything worse, because she was not nervous. She was not defensive. She was not doing any of the things people did when heavily armed security officers surrounded them. She was just tired of standing. "You may step out," Cracks said, "but please remain in the designated area." Iris walked out of the scanner with easy, unhurried steps and sat down on the nearest bench. She set her bag beside her, folded her hands in her lap, and waited. The 2 tactical officers adjusted their positions, maintaining clear lines of fire, standard protocol for Omega-level threats. Cracks pulled up her file on his personal datapad, scrolling through page after page of operations, commendations, kill confirmations. His primary eyes narrowed while his secondary eyes tracked Iris, watching for any sign of threat response. "Your service record indicates you have neutralized hostile forces from 16 different species," Cracks said. 17, actually, Iris corrected politely. "The database is missing the Quelaxian incident from 2 years ago. Paperwork got held up in diplomatic review." Vexla made that wheezing sound again. "And you are currently unarmed?" Cracks asked. "Completely. No concealed weapons, no biological enhancements, no combat implants, just me," Iris said, holding her arms out slightly to show there was nothing hidden. "Standard human. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Disappointing lack of natural defenses." The way she said it, with that little bit of self-deprecating humor, made it sound like a weakness, but I was staring at a service record that proved the exact opposite. Those disappointing natural defenses had somehow been enough to complete 47 impossible missions. Cracks opened his mouth to ask another question. That was when the alarm started screaming. The alarm was not the standard security alert. This was the bad one, the one we drilled for but prayed we would never actually hear. A pulsing, bone-rattling shriek that meant catastrophic security breach. And it was coming from the lower detention levels. Cracks's communicator erupted with panicked voices overlapping each other. "Breach in detention block 9, 3 prisoners escaped. Responding officers down. Repeat, officers down. Lockdown protocols initiated, sealing bulkheads on levels 4 through 7. All security personnel to alert status. This is not a drill. Weapons-free authorization granted." My plates went cold. Detention block 9 was maximum security. That was where they kept the galaxy's worst, the ones too dangerous to transport anywhere else, the ones waiting for tribunal hearings that would inevitably end with permanent containment or execution. Cracks's primary hand went to his communicator. "Cracks here. Identify the escapees." The response made my stomach sacks drop straight through the floor. "Krovathi warriors, sir. 3 of them. Cell block Theta. They killed 4 guards and took their weapons. Sir, they are heading toward the main concourse. Krovathi. Oh no. Oh no. No no. The Krovathi were nightmare fuel made flesh. 3 meters of bioengineered killing machine, bred specifically for combat over 2,000 years of selective genetics. Their culture had exactly one export: violence, and they were extremely good at it. Bone plating thick enough to stop most small arms fire, regeneration that could heal anything short of decapitation, strength that let them tear bulkheads open with bare hands, and a cultural honor code that made them fight to the death rather than surrender. 3 of them, loose, armed, heading this way. The main concourse was directly connected to immigration processing, which meant they were heading directly toward us. Cracks started barking orders. Vexla, Rovax, secure the checkpoint, get these civilians into the secure holding area. Tactical teams, form a defensive perimeter at junctions 4 and 7. Kelthara, evacuate all pending travelers immediately. Everyone moved at once. Travelers who moments ago had been complaining about wait times were now screaming and running. The Gorthian family scattered in 3 different directions. A Peluvian merchant dropped an entire case of goods and bolted. Rovax was shouting directions, his Krell battle training kicking in as he organized the chaos. I stood frozen at my terminal watching the security feed from the detention level. 3 massive shapes, moving fast, too fast for something that size. They moved through corridors like they owned them, and I watched in horror as a security team tried to establish a choke point at Junction 12. The Krovathi went through them like they were not even there. Kalthara, move. Vexla screamed at me. I could not. My limbs would not respond. I was watching the security feed, watching the Krovathi get closer, watching them clear junction after junction, and knowing with absolute certainty that when they reached immigration processing, everyone here was going to die. The Krovathi did not take hostages. They did not negotiate. They just killed until someone killed them first, and that required weapons we did not have in a civilian sector. The feed showed them reaching level 5, then level 4, then the access corridor that led directly to our section. 2 minutes, maybe 3 before they arrived. Krax was shouting into his communicator, calling for armed response teams, heavy weapons, anything that could stop 3 Krovathi warriors before they turned immigration into an abattoir. But response time from the tactical barracks was 5 minutes minimum. We did not have 5 minutes. Vexla grabbed my arm with her manipulator claw, trying to pull me toward the secure area where civilians were being herded. I stumbled after her, my legs moving on automatic while my brain kept screaming that we were all dead. That was when I remembered. Iris Chen. I spun around, looking for her, expecting her to be running with the other civilians or already secured behind the reinforced barriers. Instead, she was still sitting on the bench exactly where Krax had told her to remain. Her bag was still beside her. Her hands were still folded in her lap. She was watching the security feed on the public display screen, her head tilted slightly to one side. "Ma'am, you need to get to the secure area now," I shouted at her. She did not move, did not even look at me. Her eyes were tracking the Krovathi on the screen, watching their approach pattern, their movement speed, their tactical formation. "Commander Chen," Krax bellowed, "this is an emergency evacuation order." "I can see that," Iris said calmly. The security feed showed the Krovathi reaching Junction 2. 60 seconds, maybe less. Krax made a frustrated sound and signaled one of his tactical officers, "Get her to the secure zone, use force if necessary." The tactical officer, a heavily built Dralvian, approached Iris with his stun rifle slung and his hands out in a non-threatening gesture. "Ma'am, please, you need to come with me right now." Iris finally looked up at him, then past him to where Krax stood coordinating the desperate defense. Then she looked at me, and for just a second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Not fear, something else. Something that made the hair equivalent on my sensory ridge stand straight up. "How many security personnel do you have between here and those Krovathi?" she asked Krax. 12, but they are not equipped for this level of threat. Now move. "They are going to die," Iris said simply. Matter of fact, no emotion. "I know," Krax roared. "That is why I am evacuating civilians." The security feed showed the Krovathi entering the main corridor. 30 seconds. Iris stood up slowly, brushing off her pants like she had all the time in the world. "Let me help," she said. Krax stared at her like she had just offered to solve a math equation by eating the calculator. "You want to what?" "Help," Iris repeated. Let me handle the Krovathi. You are a civilian in a crisis zone. I need you secured, not playing hero. I am an active reserve special operations commander with 17 confirmed Krovathi kills across 4 different engagements, Iris said, her voice still perfectly calm. I am the most qualified person on this station to handle this threat. And you have about 15 seconds to decide if you want my help or if you want to explain to your superiors why 12 officers died when you had an asset available. The security feed showed the Krovathi were 10 meters from the checkpoint entrance. Krax looked at her, looked at the feed, looked at his tactical officers who were taking defensive positions behind barriers that would last maybe 5 seconds against Krovathi's strength. Do it, he said. Iris nodded once. Then everything about her changed. The pleasant expression vanished. The relaxed posture disappeared. She rolled her shoulders once, twice, and suddenly she was not a small, tired human anymore. She was something else entirely. Something that moved with the kind of fluid precision that made my predator recognition instincts scream warnings my conscious mind did not want to hear. She walked toward the checkpoint entrance, not running, just walking with easy, confident strides. She stopped at the threshold, standing in the open corridor where the Krovathi would see her first. Is she insane? Vexla whispered beside me. The Krovathi rounded the corner, and I got my first direct look at them. 3 nightmares in living flesh, each one massive, armored in bone plates, carrying stolen security rifles that looked like toys in their clawed hands. Their eyes, 6 per head, locked onto Iris immediately. They saw a small human, alone, unarmed. They charged. What happened next took 90 seconds, and I will remember every horrifying moment for the rest of my life. The first Krovathi came at Iris like a freight hauler roaring a battle challenge that made the walls vibrate. It swung a clawed fist that could have punched through a bulkhead. Iris moved, not away, towards sliding inside the swing with impossible timing. Her elbow struck something on the Krovathi's throat, some weak point I did not even know existed, and the massive warrior made a choking sound. She grabbed its arm, used its own momentum, and somehow, impossibly flipped 300 kilos of bone and muscle over her hip and into the wall hard enough to crack the reinforced paneling. The second Krovathi fired its rifle. Point-blank range, impossible to miss. Iris was not there anymore. She had moved, faster than my eyes could track, and the rifle shots went wide. She closed the distance before it could adjust aim, got inside its guard, and did something to its knee that made it bend in a direction knees were not supposed to bend. The Krovathi howled and dropped, and Iris took its rifle in one smooth motion, reversed it, and slammed the stock into the creature's skull with enough force to crack bone plate. The third Krovathi, seeing its companions down, pulled a blade. Smart. Krovathi combat blades were 1/2 meter long and could cut through most armor. It came at Iris with professional technique, not rage. Controlled strikes meant to kill efficiently. Iris dodged the first slash, parried the second with the stolen rifle, and then did something I could not even follow. A spin, a strike, a movement that put her behind the Krovathi, and suddenly she had the blade. She drove it down through the gap in the bone plating at the base of the skull, exactly where the spine connected, with the kind of anatomical precision that suggested she had done this before and knew exactly where to cut. The Krovathi dropped. The first one was trying to get up. Iris walked over to it, still calm, still controlled, and struck it once more. It stopped moving. Total elapsed time from first contact to last Krovathi incapacitated 87 seconds. Iris stood there for a moment, breathing slightly harder than before, but not winded, not shaking, not showing any signs of adrenaline crash or combat shock. She dropped the blade, checked each Krovathi to confirm they were neutralized, then walked back to her bench and sat down. She picked up her bag, set it back in her lap, and looked at Krax. Your security teams can secure them now, she said. They will wake up in about 20 minutes with headaches and wounded pride. The one with the blade injury will need medical attention for spinal damage, but he will live. Then she looked at me. Can I continue processing now? I really do need to catch my shuttle. I could not speak. My vocal cords had forgotten how to form sounds. Around me, the entire checkpoint had gone silent except for the moaning of injured Krovathi and the distant sound of response teams finally arriving far too late to matter. Krax walked over to Iris slowly, his 4 arms hanging loose at his sides in a Volfaxian gesture of profound respect. Commander Chen, that was you just saved 12 lives and prevented a massacre, a new voice said. We all turned. Station Commander Thexis had arrived, flanked by enough tactical officers to invade a small moon. Thexis was Corinthian, a species known for strategic brilliance and very little else, their bodies more suited to command centers than combat zones. She walked past her security detail and stopped in front of Iris. "Hello again, Commander Chen," Thexus said. "Commander Thexus," Iris replied with a small smile. "Good to see you. Nice station you are running here." "You two know each other?" Krax asked. "Commander Chen saved my fleet during the Catharian conflict," Thexus said quietly. 3 battle cruisers were caught in an ambush. We were going to lose all hands, over 2,000 personnel. She infiltrated the enemy command ship alone, disabled their tactical systems, and created an opening for our retreat. I owe her my life and the lives of everyone who served under me that day. She turned to Krax. "Someone want to explain why we detained a decorated war hero and made her handle a crisis that was our responsibility?" "That was my fault, Commander," I said quickly. Standard security screening flagged her record and I escalated to supervisory review. "You were doing your job," Iris said before Thexus could respond. "No harm done. Well, except to those 3. She gestured at the unconscious Krovathi. "Commander Chen, I apologize for the inconvenience," Thexus said formally. "Your travel is cleared with full Plymouth priority. No further screening required." "I appreciate that," Iris said. "Can I make my shuttle? It leaves in 40 minutes. I processed her documentation in 11 seconds, the fastest clearance I had ever issued in 16 cycles. My hands were still shaking as I stamped her travel authorization and returned her data chip. "Thank you for your patience, Commander Chen," I said, and meant every word. "Just Iris is fine," she said, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "Have a good rest of your shift, Officer Kelthara." She knew my name, had read it off my uniform at some point while I was busy underestimating her. I watched her walk toward the departure gates, moving through the crowd of travelers who had no idea what had just happened, who saw just another small human woman heading to catch a trans. As she turned down the corridor, her sleeve shifted and I caught one last glimpse of that tiger tattoo on her shoulder blade, that extinct predator, that apex hunter, that perfect warning label she wore on her skin for anyone smart enough to read it. Humans, I realized, were not harmless because they were weak. They were dangerous because they looked harmless, because every other species in the galaxy saw their soft skin and fragile bones and assumed prey, when the entire time we were staring at something evolution had turned into the most efficient hunters the universe had ever produced. They did not need claws when they had creativity. They did not need armor when they had adaptability. They did not need venom when they had determination. And they definitely did not need to look dangerous when looking harmless worked so much better. I pulled up the station manual and found the entry on human transit protocols. Started reading. Really reading this time. Not skimming. Vexla approached my station, her sensor stock still trembling. "Are you okay?" "No," I said honestly, "but I am educated now." I looked at the security feed showing the departure gates, where Iris Chen had already disappeared into the crowd. "Never," I said quietly, "ever judge Earth's children by their appearance again." Vexla nodded slowly. "Agreed." Behind us, medical teams were loading 3 unconscious Krovathi warriors onto grab stretchers, and somewhere in the background Krax was filing an incident report that would probably become mandatory reading at security academies across the galaxy. Another day at Terminus 7. Another reminder that the universe was far stranger and more terrifying than any of us wanted to admit. And humans, those supposedly harmless little mammals from that backwater planet, were the strangest and most terrifying of all.